And there are the starting lineups for the Iona Gales. Machado, Lamont Momo Jones, the former Arizona Wildcat, Kyle Smythe, Randy DeZouvre into the starting lineup for the first time this year with Taj Ridley being out. And then there is Mike Glover, the all-conference performer inside.
Yeah, Tim Cluse, the Iona coach, telling us he wants to go a little bit smaller, saying it's maybe a little bit of a contradiction because it's a taller Fairfield team, but we'll see how this one works to go a little bit smaller and quicker. And
Ryan Olander is the tallest player on this team, 7 feet tall. He is a difference maker, along with Barrow, Sanders, Wade, and Needham.
Wade and Sanders, 2 transfers coming down to the MAC level. Certainly came initially to play for Ed Cooley, the head coach that recruited them initially. Now the head coach of Providence. Sidney Johnson coming over from Princeton, coaching them into the NCAA tournament, almost upsetting Kentucky last year.
Ray Perrone, Gary Tracy, Joe DeMeo, our 3 officials here on a Friday night on Long Island Sound. And we are underway. The Gales in their traveling maroon uniforms have the basketball first. Momo Jones, wild shot, good defense by Needham. The outlet to Needham, though, goes out of bounds. Let's take a look at our coaching matchup. Tim Cluse in year number 2 as head coach of the Gales. You see he has won more than 70% of his games as head coach, although trying to come off of a shocking loss their last time out up in Albany against Iona, where these Gales let a 20-2 lead slip away.
Yeah, Tim telling me he thought a little bit of the fatigue factor because they played at 10 o'clock on the U 2 nights earlier against Ryder. Tim Cluse, one of the most respected coaches that I have found over the last 20 years, coming over from CW Post. Everyone just absolutely respects the way he coaches the game.
There's the 7-footer Olander. He gets on the floor to tie it up along with DeZouvre. And then the Fairfield head coach in his first year, Sidney Johnson. And you might remember he led Princeton to the NCAA tournament last spring, and now he's got himself a new job here in the MAC this year.
Remember, they knocked off Harvard in that unbelievably thrilling game at Yale. Harvard at Yale tonight, a key Ivy League game.
Rakim Sanders can't quite get the shooter's roll, and Momo Jones comes away with the basketball.
If you get a chance, look at Momo Jones' left hand and his middle finger. It's got a bandage, and it's caused him some problems.
Here is Machado, who leads the nation at 10.2 assists per game. As a team, Iona leads everybody in the country in assists per game. There is Glover, the biggest presence on the offensive block in this entire conference.
Here's Iona going smaller, yet running their offense through Glover here at the beginning.
Well, when he averages 19 points and 9 rebounds per game, you got to run.
Of course, makes sense.
Again, he was the preseason conference player of the year, and at this point, it's probably between he and his teammate Scott Machado, although we've still got another 4 or 5 weeks to go. Here's Rakim Sanders, doubled up by Smythe. Olander can knock that down, but not on his first attempt. Iona basketball.
What Sidney Johnson told me when he took over this program was he wanted to make sure that he had 5 players on the floor that could all shoot, dribble, and pass. Sound familiar? It's exactly what you need to do at Princeton. He's trying to get that here at Fairfield.
Meanwhile, Iona can do a lot of those things as well. You see nationally they are among the best in several categories. Scoring, assists. Nice defense by Needham. He apologizes immediately to MAC Associate Commissioner Ken Taylor and Jill Skatarzak for almost taking them out.
What we have here tonight is a contrast in styles a little bit in that Iona, as you mentioned, one of the best scoring teams at 83.7 points a game. Fairfield 62.4 points per game in terms of what they've allowed. So obviously Sidney Johnson wants them to get down and defend, certainly in the half court.
Here's DeZouvre, and he's called for steps. Again, there's Sidney, former Princeton star, 3-time captain, the only person who was a 3-time captain as a player at Princeton, which speaks volumes.
He's got a tremendous demeanor about him, very calm. And what's very interesting, he told us before the game, if he were at Princeton right now, they've already lost 3 league games, essentially be over because there's no conference tournament. There's no panic right now in Fairfield because they know they still have the conference tournament if they don't win the regular season.
Sanders called for the offensive foul, stepping through the double team. And there's Sidney. Had a chance to visit with him earlier this afternoon over at his office on campus. We're just a few miles to the south and east of the Fairfield University campus here in Bridgeport, where they have played their games in this downtown arena the last several years. Needham pulls the trigger. Rebounding foul.
Last year under Ed Cooley, it was Derek Needham's team. You know, we saw a number of games obviously together. This season he's had to share obviously with Rakim Sanders and Desmond Wade. So it's been a bit of an adjustment for Needham.
You see the numbers have tailed off from Derek's freshman season until now, and changing roles, ever-evolving roles in those 3 years. Olander, all-conference center in the preseason with a chance for 3. And really, Andy, each of these players is playing such dramatically different roles. I mean, even though Olander still plays the 5, with the more Princeton style, he's away from the basket more than he's used to. He's comfortable facing the basket, but more high post work, and everybody has had to go to a different system and different set, and it takes time.
And it'll be interesting to see throughout the course of the night if he does go a little bit more on the low block, trying to go at Glover because they're not as deep inside in terms of Iona.
Here is Machado backing down. Glover after the offensive rebound. Machado's got it. Smartly kicks it out to Dzuvre. Dzuvre misses the layup, and here comes Needham. He's got Sanders on the left. He goes to him, and the former BC Eagle missed the layup.
He could have dunked that one.
Good ball movement to find Smythe, and he hits from the baseline.
It was on this court last March in the MAC tournament when Smythe went down with a shoulder injury, was not able to finish that game, and ended up losing to St. Peter's.
He's had a couple of shoulder injuries the last couple of years and has not fully gotten back to 100% this year. But he is certainly one of the terrific outside threats in the conference. Long rebound comes to Lamont Jones. Momo drops it off for Glover, but it was way too strong a pass. Needham fouled by Smythe, and a chance for 3.
You know, it's interesting already, Doug, that Fairfield has been the team really pushing the tempo throughout the first few minutes of this game.
A much better Derek Needham here in the early going tonight, and they have been thriving. And Anaconda Sports, home of the Rock, is proud to sponsor the match. Well, this weekend, all around college basketball from coast to coast, it is a think pink kind of weekend. Coaches versus Cancer is the initiative, and you see a lot of pink in the stands here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And if you take a look at all the coaches in the building, they are all wearing sneakers along with their dress attire, again, to draw attention to the fight against cancer.
It's been a tremendous initiative by the National Association of Basketball Coaches in conjunction with the American Cancer Society. If you ever watch a St. John's game, Steve Lavin and his team have done this consistently since they beat Duke wearing sneakers a year ago. So they wear them all the time in a way to draw attention to the fight against cancer. As Lavin is making a comeback from prostate cancer.
You certainly don't have to look far to find people who are impacted by cancer. Jim Calhoun, Jim Boeheim, both cancer survivors. And so it's a terrific thing. They've raised over $75 million over the last 20 years since this initiative began, and they call it Suits and Sneakers. So for each of the games you watch this weekend, tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday, you'll notice that the coaches are going with sneakers along with their suits.
Fairfield obviously trying to push the basketballs. We've seen a number of times trying to take advantage of the 3 turnovers by Iona, but also quick shooting. Not a lot of patience. 0 for 4 on threes. Nice inside move to get things going by Scott Machado. I mean, the pass over to Glover, excuse me.
Glover now with 4 points. Colin Nickerson has come into the game in the backcourt for Fairfield. Also in this game, Andy, we've got a number of players for both sides who have transferred from Power 6 conference schools to MAC schools. You know, Mike Glover started at Seton Hall and has had a huge impact at Iona. Preseason Conference Player of the Year. We've talked about Rakim Sanders having 1 year of eligibility at Fairfield. Momo Jones with the basketball now helped to lead Arizona to the Elite 8 last year.
He got a waiver to play right away at Iona. His grandmother had been ill, wanted to be close to her. It is a waiver process the NCAA allows, and he's been a huge impact certainly for the Gales.
And Momo told me last week that he gets to see his grandmother a couple of times a week, and so it's worked out real well. The Iona campus in New Rochelle, just north of New York City. High post Olander turns and shoots. And here comes Machado, a very good rebounder as well. And the nation's assist king off the up fake. Big enough and strong enough to go over Desmond Wade.
It's a great possession, the way he kept his head up the entire way, sort of surveyed the lane before he made his move. And
in that corner. But it's interesting that in his Ivy League experience, of course, they didn't have a postseason tournament for the league, so you had to win the regular season championship to go to the big dance. But it's different here at the MAC. You've got that carrot that you can dangle out there and strive to be playing your best basketball that first weekend in March. So if you lose a game in January, February, it may not be the end of the world.
Yeah, they're not going to get into large. So there's no panic. But this is a key stretch for them with 5 home games in a row.
Sean Armand is checked into the game for the Gales. High post. Barrow. That snaps a mini drought and gets Fairfield back within 3.
Cindy was telling me that Maurice Barrow has star potential. Very much like Sanders. He thinks Barrow could end up being a Player of the Year type candidate in this conference.
He's a 6'5" sophomore from Hollis, Queens, out of Christ the King High School, averaging 8.5 points per game this year. Nice backdoor cut. Armand has it knocked away by Nickerson. DeZouvre out of control, and here come the Stags. Needham dropping it off, and Nickerson will pull it back out. Well, Derek Needham has been much more involved in the early going in this ball game than we have seen so far this season.
Three-point shot certainly has not been the friend of Fairfield so far.
Machado asking for the foul, doesn't get it. Here comes Desmond Wade, another transfer student. Former Houston Cougar off the mark.
There's been a lot of no pass possession so far for Fairfield. I think Sydney wants them to settle down a little bit here.
Needham from 21.
Now a lot more patience on that possession. Didn't get the ball to drop, but certainly a lot more patience.
Nice ball fake by Jones, and he buries it.
You know, I asked Jones before the game how that finger was affecting his shot. He kind of gave it a little bit so-so, and that's what Tim Cluse said earlier as well, that not quite sure how much it's healed and how much it's hurting him making shots, but obviously he was okay on that one.
And ever since Momo Jones went for 25 against Loyola last week, he has been playing a little more on the ball. That's his natural position. That's what he did at Arizona. That's what he did through high school. But when you've got such a terrific point guard in Scott Machado, those opportunities are few and far between. But Tim Cluse, as he told us, Andy, continues to try and get the ball in Momo Jones' hands more frequently. Shot clock violation. Needham passed to Sanders and didn't realize that the clock was.
A number of good years of point guards, from Derrick Rose to John Wall. I don't want to just name John Calipari point guards, but, you know, Kemba Walker. There's certainly Jimmer Fredette fits sort of in that role, but it is sort of a down year for the position nationally.
If Machado is to become a first-team All-American, he would be the first Gale to do so since Jeff Ruland.
Wow. Okay. He's doing a great job at the University of District Columbia.
Yes, right, Division II down in Washington,
is it 2 or 3?
D.C. I believe it's 2. In fact, I'm sure it's 2.
All right. You would know.
Here is Machado. Once again, Needham being very active for the Stags, but then he turns it over.
Fairfield needs to settle down. Every time they're getting, and I like the way they're trying to get out in the break as quick as possible to get Iona back on their heels, but the decision-making so far from Needham, from Wade, has been poor, and they need to settle down to get control back of this game.
4th turnover so far for Fairfield. Sean Crawford has come in to play the guard position for the Stags. Jermel Jenkins also in for the first time for Iona. And Rashad James, a 6'1" junior from White Plains, in for Iona. Well, the 4th-ranked Syracuse Orange, as part of the Saturday Showcase, presented by 5 Hour Energy, a 1 o'clock tip tomorrow against West Virginia.
And as of now, Feb Mello will not be available for the Syracuse Orange. He is practicing, still not cleared due to that unresolved academic issue from the fall semester. He's missed 2 games so far.
And Andy will have more on that and the rest of college basketball at halftime in his Katz's Corner feature. But certainly Syracuse looks much different without Fab Melo in the middle of that zone defense. Offensive foul. No basket, says Joe DeMeo, so it's another Fairfield turnover.
I think the NBA scouts will like that Machado put his body in there, willing to take that charge, getting his feet set, taking the brunt of that right in the sternum.
And it's not just scouts from the NBA who are coming to watch him. We saw Mitch Kupchak, the general manager of the Lakers, in for one of the Iona games a couple of weeks ago in New Rochelle. James, instant offense off the bench. His minutes have been sporadic this year, but he takes advantage and builds the lead to 7.
Now James played youth basketball with Sean Kilpatrick from Cincinnati. Credit little John Rothstein from CBS Sports with that one. All over the Nuggets.
Crawford buries the 3. Well, as you know, Andy, this is a league more than 3 decades has relied heavily on the New York metropolitan area to recruit basketball players, and Iona's done as good a job as any keeping terrific players from the metropolitan area close to home.
There's a vacuum right now in that area. I mean, Iona can really capture, I think, the New York-based fans if they're to make the NCAA tournament and go on a little bit of a run, which they're capable of if they play their best basketball.
Clever shot is blocked, and it'll be Fairfield ball. You look at the 5 Gales who are on the floor, all New York City kids.
I mean, right now, in the New York area, in terms of potential NCAA tournament teams, St. John's likely not going to make it. Not going to make it unless they win it. Same with Rutgers and Seton Hall now that they've gone down. What is the team? I mean, where's the team? The team
Iona.
Potentially could be Iona in the metro area.
Yep, Hofstra is down. You know, you think about the other ones who have taken turns in recent years. Iona's been as consistent as any during the Kevin Willard 3 years and the 2 years here with Tim Cluse. Actually, it was Willard, now the Seton Hall coach, who recruited Scott Machado to Iona. Rebounding foul called against Desmond Wade.
So this is a great play by Machado there where he feeds the pass right there on the shot and then goes to the basket for the rebound. Stays within the play, not trying to sort of slide back out. Feeds the pass right here. And then he goes in for the rebound, which he receives and earns it.
Well, he's the point guard who leads country in assists, but he gets over 5 rebounds per game. And Coach Tim Cluse told both of us before the game that part of the reason why wanting to have Momo Jones at the point is that Machado has become such a good shooter. It's good for him sometimes to be off the ball.
Now Wade's made some poor decisions the last couple of trips down. There's a nice pass to Sanders.
Up to the rim for 2.
I thought he was going to shoot it. Wade has been a little trigger happy the last couple of possessions.
Back to a 2-point ball game. Taj Ridley off the bench. Coming off the bench for the first time this season. And Fairfield with a chance to tie or take the lead. Well, again, these are the top 2 teams in the preseason poll this year. Iona, picked by the coaches to win, and so far they have played to that. But with Rakim Sanders, with his 1 year of eligibility, Fairfield was expected to be number 2.
That's what Sanders did in the ACC. He's got a physical body that is a tough matchup for players that play his position. He used to use it to his advantage in Al Skinner's flex offense. That's one of the first times we've seen him use it to his advantage here tonight for Fairfield.
Like with so many of the transfers from the Power 6 schools, as Ridley knocks down the shot, most of them didn't play a lot or had academic issues, or there was a reason why they came back. For Sanders, he was a 1,000-point scorer at Boston College in 3 years, yet still transferred away to come to Fairfield.
Well, there was a bit of a division on the staff. I mean, Al Skinner was very loyal to Rakim Sanders. The assistants kind of went back and forth on him. They had Reggie Jackson. It was a little bit of a tough transition. He ended up leaving, and it was obviously a better situation for him to go to Fairfield.
Of the transfer students still trying to fit in and get to where people expect this Fairfield team to get to by March.
I'll give you one nationally that's done a tremendous job. Arnett Moultrie, UTEP transfer to Mississippi State. He could end up being the SEC Player of the Year. Rick Stansbury telling me without him, they don't even come close to Kentucky, Florida, and Vanderbilt. So some transfers step right in and there's a smooth transition.
I'm always fascinated, Andy, by the dynamics and how sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Keith Matthews just into the game. Came up short on the drive. Machado with the assist to James.
Great court vision by Machado. Keeps the ball low. Never lost fully. It looked like there was a little out of control, but it was sort of controlled chaos the way he was bringing the ball down court.
Second assist. Second assist so far tonight from Machado. Under 7 minutes remaining in the half. Bad pass by Matthews, so he has not looked good on his 2 touches since coming in.
Hate to be hypercritical, but there was a case of maybe an extra pass from Fairfield. Previous possessions, no passes.
Taj Ridley, he has been active. I think the message got across from his coach. Again, Tim Kluse has started Ridley in every game until tonight. And after making that bucket, Andy, you and I saw it. Ridley was flexing a bit coming up court, and Tim Kluse was like, just settle down. Calm down. We like the energy, but we don't need that.
Tim said he wanted to sort of shake things up a little in that position in the starting 5.
Sanders a little strong on the 3. Machado another rebound.
So there's a case for Sanders not taking advantage of his size, going for that quick shot in the corner.
Ridley not shy tonight. Traveling violation. Sidney Johnson was begging for a foul.
It's interesting, Ridley coming off the bench was a starter, and yet he's had a little bit of a quick trigger finger here. That may put him back on the bench.
Now, Ridley has had some big games for this club. Started down in Puerto Rico. 16 points, 12 rebounds in the season opener against Purdue. Followed it up with 13 and 9 against Western Michigan, but he's been up and down throughout the year. But he's kind of the missing ingredient on this Iona roster. You know, they've got the true post presence in Glover and all the guards. But Ridley's the kind of guy, kind of the junkyard dog that they need to go in there and mix it up. Machado, another no look to James. This time, though, he is denied by Maurice Barrow. Wade to Nickerson. Olander picks the rebound away from Ridley, and then an offensive foul.
It's another offensive foul called against Fairfield. Olander using a little bit of the dip there.
Second on Olander, and that's the exact type of play I was talking about that Iona needs from Ridley. Sunday nights at 6 Eastern, ESPNU is your home for ACC basketball. This week on ACC Sunday Night Basketball, presented by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Georgia Tech visiting number 8 North Carolina and Harrison Barnes. Coverage begins at 5:30 Eastern with the ACC Sunday Night pregame show.
Here's how I'm selling that one.
All right.
Georgia Tech really struggling,
Yep.
but you want to watch North Carolina. I think they flipped the switch. They're back to looking like a potential national champion contender.
In spite of the fact that they are now down to 5 pros on the roster.
Yes. Watch North Carolina. Nice drive inside. Iona with an 8-0 run in the last 2:53.
We talk about Kendall Marshall and how he just uses the weapons that he has, and when they are on, they are unstoppable. Machado from Jones. Ridley up above the
in the lane by being active around the backboard.
Well, Tim Kluse's club have been road warriors this year. They are tied for the second most wins away from home, behind only Murray State. Murray's got 11. Iona has 10, as does Harvard and Lehigh. And again, those aren't all true road games, some neutral court games.
By the way, you mentioned Murray State. You should mention Isaiah Kanan is one of the best point guards in the country.
Is Murray State going to go to the tournament undefeated, Andy?
Depends who they get in bracket buster, which we'll talk about throughout the night.
Momo Jones for 3. The lead is ballooned to 27-14. And that energy that we saw in the first 10 minutes for Fairfield has gone away. One pass, jump shot, Sanders off the mark.
Sanders needs to go on the low block and use that body.
Jones,
that's what made him effective in the ACC.
Ridley again on the offensive glass.
You get the sense, though, that Iona guys are just sort of finding the roles even within this game even better than they did at the beginning.
I agree. Ball knocked out of bounds by James. Back to Fairfield. So the Stags will have it when we come back, but it's been all Iona the last few minutes. Although the last time out, we mentioned this earlier, they led Siena 20-2 and allowed Siena to come back and win that game up in Albany on Monday.
Yes, pretty disappointing, and Tim Klus was not obviously pleased with the way that game ended in a 65-62 defeat. And that's what's been lacking with this Iona team. They've yet to sort of find that consistent stride. They had to go 8 in a row on the road during the stretch from December into early January. If they can go on a nice little run here, going into bracket buster, which we'll talk about probably in the second half, they've got a shot to really turn some heads, potentially on that selection committee.
And just so folks out there know, the bracket busters matchups will be announced on Monday night. Andy Katz will be a part of the show at 6:30 Eastern time on ESPNU.
Another offensive foul by Fairfield. Sanders, once again, I don't think he's being used well enough so far. I mean, under Al Skinner in that flex offense, Sanders was really successful multiple times because he was using his body, and they were taking advantage of that. And Al did a great job of making sure he accentuated Sanders a number of times, and Fairfield's gone away from him at times.
Now Rakim Sanders at 6'5", 210 pounds, a senior from Pawtucket, Rhode Island. He played 3 years at BC, transferred last year to play for Ed Cooley's team, sat out this year for the transfer course.
Ed Cooley, a former BC assistant under Al.
Yep, a lot of connections there. And now Ed Cooley, the head coach at Providence College, saw him last Saturday when they lost to Marquette. But he certainly has a vested interest in how this Fairfield team does this year without him. Momo Jones, offensive foul.
Well, the officials are certainly calling it both ways. Offensive fouls on both sides here.
First foul on Momo Jones.
I mentioned at the beginning how Loyola and Manhattan, which are in the top 4, certainly watching who wins this game. They're up in the Buffalo area tonight. Loyola at Niagara and Manhattan at Canisius.
That is the 10th turnover committed by the Stags here in the first half. Ryan Olander will take a seat. He's got a couple of fouls, as does Desmond Wade and Kyle Smythe for Iona.
Fairfield going to apply some full court pressure here to try to get something going here defensively. As we said, they were limiting teams to 62 points a game, whereas Iona was scoring 83.
Yeah, the Gales are third in the country in points per game, behind North Carolina and VMI. Jenkins, another one of the weapons coming off the bench.
And that's what Tim has. He has depth at that guard position where he can rotate Jenkins, Sean Armand, obviously Machado, Momo Jones.
And each of those guys, Andy, capable of giving you 20 points on any given night. Foul on the shot will send Barrow to the free throw line.
And when you get to the NCAA tournament, guard play obviously, traditionally, statistically, historically, has always been a difference maker for these teams at this level. Usually you need at least one potential NBA player if you're going to excel deep into the NCAA tournament. But if you've got experienced guard play, just history has shown that those teams tend to advance.
And will Scott Machado be that guy? One thing we learned last week, he had been enduring headaches ever since the start of the season back in November. And the coaches noticed in watching the games, Andy, and watching the tape, that he seemed to be making more bad passes on long passes. His turnovers were coming on long passes, and so they determined by putting 2 and 2 together that perhaps he's having vision problems. So they took him to the eye doctor last week, and sure enough, he needed glasses. So he's got the glasses, still waiting on the contact lenses, and it'll be interesting to see if that alleviates that problem. He is very happy, by the way, to have the glasses. Once he got them, he realized how much he was missing. Foul before the shot. That is the 7th team foul on Fairfield, so Momo Jones will shoot a 1-and-1. That was the first on Matthews. Derek Needham comes back in. Needham brought the energy, Andy. Start of the ball game, we were tied early at 14 apiece, but since then, Fairfield's gone flat, and the Gales have taken control.
Fairfield won the regular season last season. In the conference tournament, not able to advance to that final game that was played here in this building between St. Peter's and Iona. And I do think, even though Iona's got a key player in Momo Jones who did not participate on that team last year, obviously he was at Arizona, so he's got his own experience, but I do think that losing that game to St. Peter's is a bit of an impetus going forward into this season. They experienced being on that precipice of going to the NCAA tournament, and now they've got a little bit more of that focus of what they need to achieve to get that good seed, to win that regular season, to be in position in Springfield this year in the MAC tournament to get a bid.
And again, the regular season champion is guaranteed a spot in the NIT if they don't win the tournament and go on to the NCAA. So that is a caveat, but Sidney Johnson, Tim Cluse, ask any coach at this level. The NIT's a consolation prize. They all want to get to the big dance for sure. There is no second place in their eyes.
How about that message from Machado? Making sure Olander knows nothing is going to be easy. Nada. You're not going to put it up there very easily.
Nickerson, air ball, and Crawford is fouled. Well, Wednesday is National Signing Day, and ESPNU will have 10 hours of coverage starting at 9 a.m. Eastern. Major announcements, coach interviews, and live reports from a campus near you. ESPNU is your home for National Signing Day. Find out where college football stars of tomorrow will play. Wednesday, 9 a.m. Eastern on ESPNU.
College football has it right. There should be one signing day.
Yes.
You have the fall in November for college basketball. You have the month-long spring one. Things change from the fall to the spring. Coaching changes. Guys leave early for the NBA draft. I'd like to see one for college basketball.
Could that happen? Do you think it might happen down the road?
They've talked about it, but too many schools want the early one. They don't want the pressure dealing with during the season.
Momo Jones heating up. 9 points now for the junior from Harlem.
When they get into a tournament setting in March, it's going to help them so much to have someone like Momo Jones on this roster.
Needham for three. And Momo Jones certainly not afraid to take that big shot.
Fairfield desperately needed something positive going into halftime with such a depth half, and Manhattan under Steve Masiello doing an outstanding job as he came over from Louisville under Rick Pitino's staff.
And coming up at halftime, top 10 teams with the most to prove. We'll have Katz's Corner, top 5 teams with the biggest question marks, and of course our first half highlights and statistics. So out of the timeout, the Gales turn it over. Lob to Nickerson. 11 seconds to go in the half. Machado attacking. Shot was blocked by Matthews.
On the way up, so it was not a goaltending.
For him, Andy, a fairly routine first half. He's on pace to maybe get a triple-double. You know, he's always stuffing the stat sheet. Rebounds, assists, and points. This is Machado with a basketball to begin the second half here at Webster Bank Arena. In they go to Glover. And Olander stands his ground. Glover again, and this time the 7-footer is whistled for the foul, and that is his third.
Once again, though, more patience there from Iona in that first possession to allow Glover to establish position against Olander and just continue to work him to try to get to the basket.
And so Mike Glover, the 6'7", 215-pound senior, who began his college career at Seton Hall under Bobby Gonzalez.
That's 3 now on Orlando. Fairfield cannot afford for him to pick up his 4th this early in the second half.
Now you see the 3 fouls on Olander. Glover is one of the Iona players, and as a team, Andy, they are among the national leaders in a lot of statistical categories. Glover is number 2 in the country in field goal percentage behind Ricardo Ratcliffe of Missouri. Glover on the year at 67%, which is just about what he does at the free throw line.
A little soft pressure here from Iona, which, to be honest, I think actually may help Fairfield. Slow them down a little bit.
Now, one thing that Tim Cluse has talked about the last couple of weeks, he wants to speed things up. You know, they started the year at a breakneck pace. slowed down a bit as they got into January, and he and the coaching staff realizes we play our best when we are going fast. Nice look to Sanders, but he lost it out of bounds.
But it was a very good possession, even though the finish didn't occur. They showed patience. Nice pass from Olander to Sanders. If he's able to hold on to that, looked like he had an ability to convert that.
11 turnovers so far for Fairfield.
But obviously down 15, they cannot have empty possessions here early in the second half.
And the same starting five in the second half for Iona as in the first. That means Randy DeZouvre getting the start instead of Taj Ridley, who was very active coming off the bench in the first half. Machado picks up his dribble and then passed it out of bounds.
A rare mistake. He's human.
There's his first turnover. Well, he and Glover, from the moment they got together 2 years ago on campus, they have had an innate ability to understand where the other one's going to be, but on that possession didn't work out.
Yeah, a little miscommunication. One was cutting in. He thought he was going out.
Here's Desmond Wade, the former University of Houston point guard who played so well for the Cougars for a couple of years before transferring to Fairfield. Stags turn it back to the Gales. Tough pass to handle. DeZouvre couldn't do it. And Iona gives it right back. Wade dumps it off, and this time Sanders able to convert.
In the right place at the right time. Hands there to receive the pass and finish. Fairfield needs some sort of positive momentum.
DeZouvre up and over Olander, but he could not make it fall.
What I like about Olander right there, even though he's got three, he was still the aggressor without committing anything silly.
Sanders didn't know the pass was coming. He thought when Wade left the floor he was going to shoot the basketball, and so the Stags give it up again.
And Sanders telling Wade that was his fault, wasn't in the right spot, or wasn't obviously looking for it when he should have been.
So Sanders will take a break. And Colin Nickerson comes in. He may be the best on-ball defender in the conference, and certainly Fairfield needs to get something going. Perhaps Nickerson can provide that spark.
When Wade is on Machado, you're not going to turn the ball over much against Machado. I mean, he had his own unforced error there, a possession before.
Here goes Machado on Wade. Strong to the bucket.
He's got the size advantage, and he took advantage of that right there.
Wade only 5'8", 150. Machado 6'1", 180. Glover steps in and takes it away. Smythe strong to the bucket, but wave it off. Olander playing with those three personals through the charge.
Olander knows that he's got to make something happen for Fairfield, draws a charge, willing to put his body in front of him and potentially pick up his his fourth foul. Gets his feet set. It was almost as if Smith was sort of pausing a little, sort of waiting for Olander to get set.
And instead he picks up his third personal foul on the charge. And with those three fouls, Smythe is checked out of the game. Jenkins back in. Sanders just back in, and he is called for an offensive foul on the post. So the struggle continues for the former BC Eagle.
But at least he was trying to call for the ball, try to command position, but didn't execute it.
Here is Nickerson trying to slow down Machado, and he's called for the reach-in.
If it sounds like we're being too hypercritical of Sanders, it is because he has the talent to be Fairfield's best player on a consistent basis.
On the year's numbers are good. He's 5th in the league in scoring, 4th in the league in rebounding at over 8 per game. Only 6 points so far here this evening. Machado goes around Nickerson. And it rattled out. The help defense came over, and Barrow forced the miss. Needham, strong move, but missed the lefty layup. He pokes it away, and Iona will keep possession. Machado now guarded by Wade. Here's Momo Jones, high score in the game so far, misses on his first attempt here in the second half.
That's a shot he can make. King right off that screen, is in good position.
Nickerson works the baseline, lost it. Andy, that's 16 turnovers now for Fairfield. Iona gives it right back.
Fairfield showing patience on the possession, but it's the fundamentals at the end. Low passes, not being able to receive the pass. That's what's contributing this right now.
Yeah, not executing. Down 15. 15:56 to go in regulation. We're looking at now with a couple of days to go.
Well, this event has been critical for some teams outside the Power 6 conferences that are involved in it, potentially getting that late season pop in the power rating. Whether it's a road win like George Mason had, if you remember, that can be the difference at times for not just getting a selection, but also maybe a seed. Here's some significant bracket buster games for teams involving the MAC. Remember that Manhattan team coached by Fran Fraschilla? They defeated Milwaukee. Then they get a better seed. I think it was a 12. And they ended up beating Oklahoma in the NCAA tournament. Siena, 3 different times, had key games. They went west to Boise State. That was a big win for them. They went out into Northern Iowa. They did lose to Butler. But I think we can look at some key matchups that may or may not occur in these home road matchups in the bracket buster. Iona is going to be a home team. They're going to get a quality game in this. Someone, whether it's Wichita State, St. Mary's, Long Beach State, Nevada, Akron, one of those schools are probably going to be going to Iona. And Loyola sort of on that cusp of a potential television game. They may get one as well because they're also a home team.
Iona with the takeaway. Iona certainly should be and will be one of the featured teams, in part because of that tandem, Machado to Momo Jones. So now,
Am I going here, Fran versus Gonzo?
Gonzo in 04, yes.
I'm sorry, I was thinking 95 with Fran.
And that was pre-bracket busters,
yes,
but same type of thing where...
Didn't mean to diss Gonzo. Didn't mean to diss you, Gonzo.
But Fran Fraschilla took a Manhattan team and won a game.
95 was when Fran beat Oklahoma.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
So anyhow, but with the bracket busters coming up on Monday, I mean, for a team like Iona, who do you see them potentially being matched up with?
Well, first of all, you're going to want to see Scott Machado on display on that weekend, February 17th, 18th, and 19th. I think ultimately you're going to see either St. Mary's going to Creighton or Murray State, Wichita State, or Long Beach State going to one of the other ones. And that leaves Long Beach State, potentially Nevada, going to Iona, or Davidson, or Oral Roberts, or Cleveland State. One of those home teams is going to get one of the better road teams. Unfortunately, this particular year, there's better home teams than there are road teams. Each year it varies, and the conferences decide, you know, which schools are going to be home and road. It's predetermined. I mean, ultimately, I think everyone would like to see a Creighton-Murray State matchup, maybe. Not going to see it because they're both home teams. So St. Mary's is going to go to one of those schools.
Right, and that's just the way it goes. And for this conference, for the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, they predetermined their 5-5 split before the year, and then the next year they just flip-flop. So if you had a home game this year, you're going to get a road game next year, and they just keep it equitable in that regard. But not all leagues follow that formula. And
you play that game as a return game. It doesn't have to be the following season, but it's within 2 seasons as a traditional regular season game. And that's why these conferences like it. It allows them to just pencil in a game they know they're going to schedule.
And as you may or may not know, I mean, teams like Iona have a real hard time scheduling home games against quality opponents. Nice break. Machado with another assist as James lays it in. But, I mean, if you're Iona, one of the better mid-major teams in the country, Power 6 teams don't want to come to New Rochelle and play a game in your
small they don't want to. They don't do it. They got to go down to Puerto Rico for them to play.
Right. So they got a neutral site, or you get one of the return games in a bracket buster situation, and that's about the only way you can get a quality non-conference opponent in your building. Put back by Barrow.
You can see what Sidney Johnson was saying about Barrow. I mean, he definitely has the size, the athleticism, the length, to potentially be a real big-time player in this league. Had a good nose to the ball right there. Knew where to be on the missed shot by Wade. Doug, I don't think we've seen this kind of dominating performance from Iona in the MAC. This is what everyone, I think, expected Iona to do once they got into the league. Didn't happen. but no one thought it would come against Fairfield, the team that was picked to win in the preseason with Iona.
And with Fairfield, as we've talked about, consistently it has not come together. Sanders with the bucket, answering the Glover layup. But Iona, while being tied right now, Andy, we've talked about the three-way tie along with Manhattan and Loyola. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that Iona is still the best team in the league and still the team to beat. But you're right, we've not seen nearly as many one-sided games as potentially we could. They're going to wave off that basket and say it was in the cylinder.
You know why I'm okay with that? The aggressive play right there. Still following the ball. Yes, basket's not going to count, but they're continuing to attack the basket.
Well, here's a couple of things that make Scott Machado unique for this league and in the country. He doesn't just set up his teammates. He's able to finish, able to get the rebounds.
Sanders there staying with Akron sounded good to him. Maybe Drexel from the Colonial. They're playing well. The reality is he needs the best matchup this season. You worry about where you got to go later. If it's St. Mary's or Long Beach State, take it.
And that's a common theme from year to year. I mean, the coaches understandably want to reduce their travel, reduce their cost, but you're absolutely right.
If you get St. Mary's on your home court,
take it and
Iona,
be happy.
Take it. Look at Iona was on the road for 8 straight games.
Absolutely. There's so much to be.
You mentioned Power 6 teams don't want to go there. You could stretch that out to top 10 conference teams have a hard time wanting to go to New Rochelle.
Here's Momo Jones. Looks good on the three. 14 points now for Jones to lead all scorers.
In this conference, though, and you cover this as well as anyone, more than anyone, there's been, it seems like, a constant cycle of teams that have taken their turn at the top. Niagara, under Joe Mihalik, has had his turn, and a lot of coaches think that they could be on their way back. But Iona sort of consistently has had some really strong coaches. Tim Welsh, Jeff Ruhlin, now Tim Cluse. Kevin Willard there for a short stint, but wasn't there long enough to really establish himself.
Glover with a terrific reverse. Now I find that it's because of the constant turnover in coaches. I mean, because as soon as somebody has success, like Willard in 3 years, they move on to the next level, and then you've got to not necessarily start from scratch, but there's so much turnover, it's really hard to sustain it consistently. And Iona, for the most part, as you mentioned correctly, has sustained it for the 3 decades of the MAC. Siena has done a better job over the last 20 years of doing that, but by and large, you're right. It's an up and down league, and I think it's the nature of a mid-major league like the MAC. You know what's interesting? We say that, and yet a school like Loyola Maryland, under Jimmy Patras, has stayed with him. Overall, yes, a sub-500 record, 112, 119 going into tonight, but he's done a great job of building that program over time. Dylan Cormier has done an outstanding job for them so far. I mean, they've got a team that potentially could win this conference in a 3-day. They may win the regular season still. Done a great job up there. Yeah, Joe Mihalik, the dean of the league at Niagara, has sustained very, very good basketball in Western New York for more than a decade. You keep your coach, you can keep winning. Timeout here in Bridgeport. The Iona Gales looking to sustain at least a share of first place in the MAC here tonight.
And Doug, you just got an update from the officials on that ruling.
Yeah, Ray Perrone came over, and it was a double technical for unsportsmanlike language. And as you said, obviously nothing physical. We saw the language being thrown around, and so double technical against Rakim Sanders and Mike Glover. They both get personal fouls, but no change of possession, no change of the possession arrow, and they just play on.
The zone has really flustered Fairfield at times here. Wade trying to get inside the zone, can't convert with the little floater.
And we've seen a number of those tonight, Andy, where Fairfield has penetrated but been unable to finish. Good ball movement to find the wide open corner three that's off the mark by Jenkins.
Well, Lander can make that shot. You saw it early in the first half, at least in attempted.
Needham, good rhythm three.
Needham looks relieved that he finally hit a shot like that. That shot comes within the context of their offense, showed good patience. They pushed the basketball up the floor pretty quickly and then got into their offense. Didn't try to force the shot. Now down 14. Obviously, the goal here would be to try to get it under 10 before our next media timeout at the under 8 mark.
Smythe Kicks it back out to Jenkins with 5 on the shot clock. Back to Glover. Can't get the roll, so another defensive stop for the Stags.
See, in this instance, Needham is not having to bring up the basketball. They got Crawford in the game.
Terrific
and with
set
Wade,
that time.
you've got multiple ball handlers for him, so he can focus a little bit more on his shooting.
Foul on the high-low from Olander down to Sanders. Tomorrow at the Carrier Dome, 1 o'clock tip between 4th-ranked Syracuse and West Virginia. And that'll be on ESPNU. And as you talked about earlier, Fab Melo will be missing his 3rd straight game for Syracuse.
Kevin Jones, right now, you can make an argument, Big East Player of the Year, potential first-team All-American. As of earlier today, I think it was earlier today, 27,500 tickets were sold for the game at the Carrier Dome, which would be the largest crowd in college basketball this season. You see Jim Boeheim climbing up above Adolph Rupp in terms of the all-time win total at 877. He'll obviously pass Dean Smith here at 879. Within a week.
It wasn't that long ago that Boeheim and Calhoun were close.
Yep.
And now Boeheim is pulled back ahead.
Although Calhoun's won 2 more national championships.
Absolutely.
Depends where you're, what part of the scorecard is more important to you.
Well, both Hall of Famers in the end. A chance for 3.
All right, Doug, I said get it under 10 by the 8-minute media timeout. They're at 11 with a chance to get it to 10 at 8:51.
And the catalyst inside has been Rakim Sanders.
Came back in after he took a brief breather after the technical foul for foul language.
Indeed.
Cleans it up.
Point, of course, and he and Machado break the huddle and come back out along with Smythe, James, and Glover as Iona now tries to answer back. They see the wrap on that middle finger on the left hand of Lamont Jones. You asked him before the game how it's doing. What did he say, Andy? That's the medical term.
Didn't give me the full thumbs up.
So here's Sanders. And he is able to complete the 3-point play. So it is back to a 10-point ball game. From 19 down to 10. Now Randy DeZouvre back in and James out for the Gales. Momo Jones at the point, bringing it up.
You can sense the crowd here in Bridgeport trying to just get into this game. They want to get into this game. They need a stop from Fairfield. Another bucket by Fairfield, and they get this thing under 10 at that 8-minute mark.
High screen. Set by Glover, who rolls to the bucket. Machado needs some help. 5 seconds to shoot. Glover attacking, and the foul.
Let's see how the official pointed at Crawford, and that's where it's going to be, which is huge. Had that been on Olander, that would have been 4. But giving that foul on Crawford on the reach-in is okay for Fairfield. Right there with that left hand. Glover was getting a little bit desperate as the shot clock was winding down.
Well, it's been a much cleaner second half. Not quite as many turnovers. Only the 15th foul against Fairfield here in the half. Only 5 against Iona so far. Mike Glover was on the Wooden Award preseason watch list. Naismith Player of the Year watch list. Coming off of a junior season where he averaged 18 and 10. The rare double-double for the entire season.
If you're looking for a team to filling out that bracket, assuming Iona can get there, you can see in the key positions they've got the players at the right spots that can win a game or two. Led by Scott Machado, one of the best point guards in the country. Right there with a guy that gets a lot of headlines in Kendall Marshall. But I'd say right now I'd put Machado ahead of him on any kind of All-American lists.
And Iona has shown it can knock off a Power 16 this year down in Puerto Rico. They blew out Maryland, now a completely different looking Maryland team than we see nowadays. But they blew them out. They also took Purdue to the wire, losing 91-90 in their season opener. So they can play with the big boys. Yeah,
you were at that game down in Puerto Rico, weren't you?
I was. And the Robbie Hummel jump shot. Thank you. When we come back, we'll find out and take a look at what makes Scott Machado unique for these Iona Gales. U.S. Army game track, and there are the Machado numbers.
Led by the guards. Machado with 10 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Momo Jones, that middle finger not bothering him at all. 14 points, 6 rebounds. And Rakim Sanders, been all over the place tonight. Struggled early. Now he's got 14 points, 5 rebounds, trying to lead them back. Had the technical foul for foul language. Now Olander at the line, trying to get them at that 10 spot. With about 7:56 to go.
Yeah, he talked about wanting to get it to single digits in the under 8 timeout. They didn't quite get there, but a better bit of energy for those Fairfield Stags. Still got a hill to climb, though. The senior from Mansfield, Connecticut, with a pair for Sidney Johnson. He says he's got a poker face, but I'm starting to see a little frustration there.
Well, it's understandable.
He says
and there's a hold right off the bat defensively.
With the set of circumstances, this team still has time to hit its stride as we head towards the MAC tournament.
It does. And he said he's not going to panic, and he fully understands that this isn't the Ivy League. They can obviously get hot for 3 days in Springfield and get an NCAA tournament berth. But at the same time, they've got to put together 40 minutes against one of the top teams in the league.
Here goes Machado on Needham. And he's called for steps.
A rare unforced error. I think we've seen 2 of those so far. The one pass earlier, but a little miscommunication that sailed out of bounds.
Yeah, right after we said he didn't have any turnovers.
That's right.
And now he's got 2. As a team, the Gales have turned it over 12 times. Sanders continuing to pick up his play.
He's got the size advantage on Smythe, so he can take it right to him. All right, so now it's under 10, Doug.
Yep, 16 points for Sanders.
And right now, Machado not playing with the basketball in his hands. See if they can free him up. But Momo Jones taking the shot by himself over Olander.
He wants the big shot. He understands it. He's got a 7-footer closing on him. He elevates and gets it off.
He was essentially Robin to Batman in Arizona last season with Derek Williams.
Sanders with the answer.
Okay, now Fairfield has to come up with a stop. And they get the turnover.
Here comes Sanders. Euro step, but he was out of control. And he comes up limping just a bit. Smythe dropping it off, and Glover with the finish.
Huge transition right there. Sanders unable to finish at one end, a little out of control. Smythe with a nice dump pass for the bucket, and Iona maintains a 10-point lead.
High-low again. Olander down to Sanders, and that is quite a combination.
Olander, very good passer from that top spot at the free throw line.
20 points now for Sanders.
Iona in this situation.
But it doesn't always work out that way. We saw Iona allow Manhattan to come from behind in New Rochelle and knock off their arch rival earlier this year. And, of course, the Siena game, of course. Under 6 minutes to go. Jones, he is feeling it. 18 points now for the 6-foot junior. Let's see if they go back into Sanders, Andy. He has scored 16 of his 20 points here in the second half. Here is Sanders from deep. Dezouvre with a rebound.
Sanders was taking advantage inside. In that instance, just too quick a shot.
Jones open in the corner. Can't get the roll this time. And Fairfield gets it back. Derek Needham with the basketball. First team all-conference last year as a sophomore. Second teamer as a freshman. And he was the conference rookie of the year 2 years ago. Nice look inside. Olander throws it down.
And picks up the foul.
Here come the Stags. This time it's Sanders feeding Olander inside.
All right, Doug, so I said get it under 10 at the 8-minute mark. Weren't able to do that. Now our next timeout is going to be at the 4-minute mark or around there. Can they get it to 6?
Is that the magic number?
6 or 4?
Okay, we'll see.
What would you think? 6 or 4?
How about 5?
All right,
the difference.
5. Okay.
They are chipping away. That foul was on Momo Jones, his first. gets the shooter's roll.
Almost went to the top of the backboard. Just barely nicked it on the front side.
So it's back down to 7. Fairfield trailed by as many as 17 back in the first half.
Crowd starting to get into it. They can sense Fairfield has a chance now for the first time tonight.
Foul is called against Needham. Got the sense there, Andy, that DeZouvre might have been a little out of control, but the personal foul against Fairfield will send DeZouvre to the line.
Tim Cluse showing a lot of confidence in DeZouvre, starting him in place of Ridley earlier.
Yeah, Ridley had started every game so far this season until tonight. Ridley did have a big first half, but not so much here in the second half. Another empty trip for the Gales.
And on the road, you're going to have to make those free throws, especially if you want to hold the lead like this. And momentum's starting to shift a little bit towards Fairfield.
Just starting, you think?
7 points still.
Wade to Barrow. Big shot. Got a wide open look. Fairfield's done a much better job getting good looks here in the second half. Lomo Jones backing down on Needham. Turns and fires. Needham holds his ground. Needham still with the bounce. Right to the basket.
Just being a crucial road swing for them if they're going to stay in step, potentially with Iona if they were to win this road game.
Yeah, so if all 3 of these scores with the first place teams hold, Iona, Loyola, and Manhattan would end the night also tied for first. But the Stags trying to come from 17 down. Machado, strong move.
Right from that package before where we said he just holds on the ball in a strong way. It's very hard to get away from him. Used his body control to convert that. And now Iona's got the 7-point lead.
Sanders, a little strong. Glover saves it to Sanders. A huge sequence right there.
Sanders stayed with the play. He's a little frustrated that he missed the shot, but recognized with a chance to make that interception, if you will, and convert.
Just a little unlucky if you're Iona. Both Smythe and Glover went after the rebound, fighting each other. Machado trying to take over this game. He will head to the free throw line to shoot 2.
Look at the
media time.
Ohio State, Kentucky, North Carolina, and they go all chalk, and they go Syracuse.
How is Syracuse impacted if they don't get Fab Melo back for the long term?
It will hurt them long term, and they go with a flyer, someone like Michigan State. But I would not rule out Kansas, Missouri, Baylor. Any of those teams could get there.
Missouri's lack of depth and relative lack of size not a problem in the tournament?
No, it is.
But they have certainly overcome it so far this season. Machado 1 of 2 from the free throw line. The lead back up to 6.
Remember, they had a 10-point lead, 39-29 at Siena. Ended up losing that game 65-62 in their last outing.
Iona was the preseason pick by the conference coaches. Fairfield was number 2. Maurice Barrow, big inside.
You can see his potential that Sidney Johnson certainly loves. If Barrow and Sanders can play in Orlando at a high level, this team can certainly win in Springfield.
Barrow, the sophomore out of Christ the King High School in Queens, now with 9 points. .12 to shoot. Machado is fouled by Needham. Needham pleads his case, saying he was the offended, but to no avail.
Needham was right up on Machado. We saw earlier, I think it was in the first half, when they were playing right up on him, and Machado was able to get that step away. Here you've got contact and the foul. Now Machado's got to take control here of this game in the final 2 minutes. He's the All-American point guard. This should be his game to win, certainly on the road.
And clearly there was hand fighting going both ways, and Machado did grab the bicep of Needham, but it's Needham who was whistled for the foul. Machado with a 1-and-1 after having hit just 1 of 2 a moment ago. Machado, by the way, is leading the conference in free throw shooting, and I say at only 83%. Usually you'd think a conference leader would be higher than that, but
still pretty good.
83%, not bad at all. Although he's 2 for 4 so far tonight. A couple of big misses here in the final 4 minutes. Nice feed from Olander. Pass, though, winds up in the bench.
Fairfield getting a little bit too excited on that possession. Brown trying to convert over to Sanders. You see a little bit of pressure now from Fairfield. They're going to have to try to force a turnover. Still plenty of time, 2 minutes, 5 points. Certainly if Machado's going to go 1 or 2 at the line. They're right in this stuff.
Indeed they are. A little offense-defense substitution here. Kyle Smythe coming back in. James going out. Also Jermel Jenkins has checked back in for Iona. So a true 4-guard look here with Mike Glover, the only inside player.
Tim Clue said he was going to go to this quite often.
Big shot by Machado.
Floor was spread right for him.
Timeout call to again switch offense-defense. Tim Cluse calls the timeout. Sidney Johnson can't believe that they gave him the timeout.
Yeah, because they wanted to obviously get it up the floor very quickly, try to create an advantage for Fairfield, catch Iona sort of with their momentum going one direction, get them going the other to try to cut this lead.
So now with 1:43 remaining, you see the reset there. 1 timeout apiece remaining. And then Machado showing that upper body strength and the ability to finish with that contact.
Look how he's finishing with that, with the rest of his body going the opposite direction. He's got great body control there to still convert that as his momentum's taking him away from the basket.
Is he a first-team All-American right now, Andy?
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously, if you take Kendall Marshall off of North Carolina, they're not the same team. You do that here, same deal with Iona. But if you look at him, the way he is able to distribute the ball on a consistent basis, just his overall vision, Kendall Marshall. But in terms of what he's done so far for this team, I would put him a nudge ahead of Kendall Marshall. And Matthew Dellavedova, leading St. Mary's for an undefeated WCC season so far, he's right up there as one of the top point guards in the country. And
you'll get more opportunities to see Iona. And again, we'll find out on Monday when the Bracket Busters show on ESPNU at 6:30 Eastern time tells us when and where Iona will be playing, and that will be a televised game.
It's not going to happen, but I'd love to see St. Mary's against Iona.
For that matchup.
For Dellavedova versus Machado. But St. Mary's probably going to either Creighton or Murray State.
Sanders backing down. Whistling a foul on the pass.
Sanders trying to influence the call to get them to the line. And it is 1-1.
Rashad James whistled for his first. And so Sanders, a 63% foul shooter at the free throw line. He's had a big second half.
This is what they expected from him.
He had only 4 points in the first half. And now 23 for the night.
And we have multiple players in this game that played in Power 6 conferences that are having solid careers here in the MAC.
2 big free throws for the senior from Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And now again the offense-defense switches to the Iona lineup.
Fairfield obviously going to try to force a turnover. Down 5 with 1:21 left.
Jenkins gets it into Machado.
Iona right now has 3 strong ball handlers on the court. And this is something, if they get into the NCAA tournament, that's going to be a huge benefit for them. Experienced guards that can handle the ball in late game situations.
1 minute left in regulation. With 11 to shoot, Machado having a conversation with the official Ray Perrone, and now he gets going. Jenkins, the pull-up. Big shot.
Over Sanders. Did not have the height advantage at all. Makes a huge shot.
What a weapon for Tim Cluse to have a guy like Jermel Jenkins to come off the bench in that situation. He's third all-time in school history in three-point shots made, yet he's an afterthought for most of the night, but is able to come in and make that big shot. The lead back to 7. Wade, the rainbow three. Was the theory he learned from his coach at Princeton, Coach Carrill. Take care of your home games in conference play and sneak a road game here and there, and you'll be all right. And certainly, as he said, this stretch will determine whether they are at the corner, turning the corner, or not going to be able to make that turn.
2.8 second differential prior to that on the shot clock. Now we're under 35 at 34.8. Iona will go to the free throw line with essentially a couple of must free throws. Otherwise, Fairfield's going to have it's still a two-possession game, but certainly a shot here in the final 34 seconds. Here's a look at the standings. This is how critical their game this is for Fairfield at 5-3. To try to stay with Iona within arm's reach. You win this game, you're tied in the loss column, you lose it. Now you're 2 games back in the loss column, and you've lost to them on your home court.
Momo Jones had to gather himself before going to the free throw line. Andy, you talked about his ailing left middle finger, which does not have the wrap on it or there it is. It is there, but again, what was his medical term for how he's feeling? Yeah. He looked good on that first free throw. Again, it's his non-shooting hand, and it has not slowed him down tonight. He's got 19 points, including 3 for 3 from the line. Looked good on both, and now he will head out, and he is clearly favoring that left middle finger. He high-fived his teammate Rashad James clearly with his right hand. Shot clock is off. Sanders driving to the bucket strong. Can't get the roll. And Ridley rips the rebound away, and the foul's called against Olander.
I anticipated Wade going for a 3, or at least Sanders when he got the basketball. He went inside to try to maybe get the traditional three-point play. Not able to convert here and wasn't fouled.
Olander can't believe his luck. And that shot by Sanders was so close to going down. Instead it rims out, and we go to the other end for more free throws. Here's Ridley, who had the big first half coming off the bench for the Gales. On the year, just a 62% foul shooter. Coming up next on ESPNU, college basketball built by the Home Depot. It's Boston University against Stony Brook out on Long Island.
BU was the preseason favorite in the America East. Another new coach situation. Joe Jones coming over as an assistant coach. 1 year in Boston College under Steve Donahue, former Columbia head coach, former Villanova assistant.
Olander puts up the 3. It's an air ball long. Foul given by Wade will send Machado to the line.
So Iona's going to escape Bridgeport with a huge road win for them. Coming off the real disappointing loss. You could tell when we were talking to Tim Cluse, Doug, before the game that really frustration in losing that game at Siena the other night. They had the 10-point lead at halftime. This is a 3-game road trip for Iona. At Siena, you win this game at Fairfield. Now you go to at St. Peter's on Sunday. They've got 4 home games still to come. Canisius, Marist, Fairfield, St. Peter's in the league. And then, as we said, they have the bracket buster home game, potentially against maybe Nevada, maybe Akron. We'll see, maybe Wichita State. I just don't think St. Mary's is going to be coming down to Iona.
As you saw, Machado is our Pepsi Max player of the game, and while his assists are down in this ball game, he's getting it done in other ways and leading his Gales here on the road to what will be an impressive victory. They opened up a 19-point lead in the second half, nearly let it all slip away, but they hold on to win 71-62.
If you're looking for a team in your bracket, if Iona can hold on and win this conference tournament, this is the kind of team that you need to circle. Who knows where they'll be seated?